we can finally talk about the Raiders hiring offensive genius, head coaching 101, Chip Kelly as their offensive coordinator. Mike, tell us how you're feeling about this hire, stuff that maybe you're excited about, maybe that you're hesitant on, or if it's just all smooth sailing ahead for you.
I'm uh, cautiously optimistic. I guess my first reaction that I've noticed with myself, with hirings, firings, whatever it may be, I'm usually pretty optimistic um, with the decision making, and then I just wait and see as far as saying, I told you so, or, you know, gathering full, complete thoughts on something. Like, I'm always going to hope that a coordinator does good. And then if they don't do good, I will be honest and say, like, this guy needs to fucking go, you know? So, like, pretty quickly this year, I wanted, help me with the name, offense coordinator,
Uh,
Luke Getzey.
you, Luke Getzey.
I wanted Luke Getzey the fuck out of here, right? Uh,
That's why I
Before
was
that,
confused for a second because normally I'm the one who has to come and say, "Yeah, Luke Getzey," but you said, coming into this year I wanted, and I'm like, "Did Mike want Luke Getzey? Like, who did you want? Like, was it
sorry, yeah,
Cliff Kingsbury?"
wanted them out of here.
Yeah.
Um, and then like the year prior, I came into 2023 still optimistic on Josh McDaniels. Admittedly, like it was not the popular thing. Nobody liked him because of the Patriot way, all this shit, and the offense wasn't good his first year. Then year two, I'm like, well, I'm pretty confident Mark Davis is going to give these guys the time that they need to do what they need to do, and this was after Derek Carr, obviously, and they put all the chips in kind of on Jimmy Garoppolo, and the offense is just worse than it was with Derek Carr. And it's like, dude, this is terrible. Like, this is hopeless. And I just got to the point where I was like, get Josh McDaniels the fuck out of here. And sure enough, they did it. And I had come into that season like, they're not going to fire him. They're not going to do it. And by midseason, I was like, get him out of here. So, point being, I can be honest once I've seen it. And the tough thing here with Chip Kelly is I haven't seen it in the NFL for quite a long time, right? And I think every Niner fan, I'm not looking at the comments right now. I don't usually when I'm watching the pod, I don't look at the comments until you show them. But I'm sure if there's a Niner fan commenting right now, they're laughing at the Raiders for hiring Kelly.
Well, let's look at one of the comments.
Hey,
Fonzie says Kelly has been a good coordinator, not a good head coach.
and you know what? That's the gist that I get. So thank you, Fonzie, for being honest. Because I think a lot of Niner fans are like, not that it's like super, hateful or like, oh, ha, ha, ha. It's the Bay Area rivalry. So some fans are like that. It's whatever. But the gist that I have gotten is like, if I asked a Niner fan, it's like, dude, that guy sucks. And it's like, yeah, you had a bad experience with him. No shit. But he was the head coach and it's a little different. And I think if we're being honest here, I don't think the personnel was that good on that team, you know? Whereas,
Mm.
so that was the really bad year for him in the NFL. Otherwise, with the Eagles, his offenses were great. He just wasn't a good head coach, right? Like his first 2 years as the Eagles head coach, his offenses were top 10. And I'm
Mm.
not expecting that next year. Like they have work to do. If they could get that done, then oh my goodness. But I'm not expecting that. I'm just hoping for middle of the pack, really. That'll be a good enough jump for me compared to this season. Um, but there's a lot of decisions to be made at running back. Obviously, quarterback's the biggest, and then how good will the offensive line be? And then above that, or not above that, but with that comes scheming and play calling. So I'm not going to jump the gun and say, like, this is the best hire they could have made. I've seen a lot of Raider fans and Raiders beat writers saying that. You know, I'm a big fan, or whatever you want to call it, follower of Mo Moton. Um, all the all the signs were pointing to Daryl Bevel, and nobody was excited about it. He was like a 7-year, tenured offensive coordinator for Pete Carroll back in Seattle when they won the Super Bowl. Nobody was excited about it because, other than a couple of those years with Seattle, like Daryl Bevel has not been a good offensive coordinator, right? And I wasn't like overly excited about it. But I was just like, hey, at least he's had success with Pete Carroll. Mo Moton was on here on Twitter on his, Bleacher Report and lives and stuff saying, like, if the Raiders can hire the right guy, it's Chip Kelly. Before they even interviewed him, he was saying Chip Kelly would be my top choice. And they hired him, and I'm like, wow. All right, well, hearing that from Mo Moton weeks ahead of this gives me hope. But I'm not going to sit here and act like I know for a fact that it's going to work out. But hey, Ohio State just won the national championship, and I think he was a big part of that. So I'm optimistic, cautiously optimistic, as I usually am with the hiring process of coaches. But I'm not going to jump the gun on like celebrating. I need to see it first. So this year will be telling. But I can give you the floor to give your thoughts, and then I do have a tweet that I sent to the Silver and Gold Twitter that I would love to read. That probably gives a better breakdown, if you will. So,
So I kind of agree with Fonzie here. That Chip Kelly has been a good coordinator and not a good head coach. And like Mike said, the year that he was on the 49ers, he did not inherit a talented roster, nor did Trent Baalke do him any favors constructing one.
Yep.
I do remember back in high school when the 49ers, there was talks that they might get Chip Kelly, and I remember being excited for it, right? Excited because, he was good on the Eagles until he wasn't,
Right.
And so I was excited, and I'm like, man, could you imagine actually Chip Kelly paired with Colin Kaepernick would actually be like a really good duo. Like, they're going to be able to run like zone read and be very creative on offense. And, what I did experience as a fan was, obviously Chip Kelly has shortcomings as a head coach as it is. But as a play caller, it felt like the same recycled couple plays where every single game, the 49ers would go up like 14-0 and then just get dogged the rest of the game. And, they started off the season with Blaine Gabbert and then finished the season off with Kaepernick. But like, they did not have a lot of talent around these quarterbacks. They had the number one receiver at the time might have been Jeremy Curley, right? We had Vance McDonald at tight end. We had
Clive Walford.
No. We had Torrey Smith. Torrey Smith might have been like the most talented, but like just
past
there was prime. Not he was past his prime, and he just wasn't necessarily the right fit with the quarterbacks too.
Yeah.
And yeah, the running back was Sean Drone.
Maybe Carlos Hyde at best. Maybe, depending on the year. I don't know.
You know what? Yeah, Carlos Hyde, but I think he might have gotten injured that year.
Yeah.
I don't think Carlos Hyde ever rushed for 1,000.
Yeah. I mean, regardless, you're describing what was probably the worst receiving core in the NFL that year, and probably one of the worst rushing attacks. Yeah.
And he was one and done as a coach. And so, it's kind of weird to me how like they fired Chip Kelly very quickly. Like, I understand why they did it with Tom Sula because, it kind of seemed like the job was maybe a little too advanced for him, or like a little bit too big of a role for what he was used to because he went from being a defensive line coach. But Chip Kelly was supposedly an offensive guru. So as I said, they would go up and they would just like run, they would run a lot of like just halfback dive, straight up the middle. And it was like over and over. And like, I remember I went to my first Niner game. It was Chip Kelly's last last game as the head coach and Kaepernick's last game. And then I'm like, I was just like telling my brother as we were sitting there in the nosebleeds, I'm like, hey, this dude is not picking any different plays on Madden right now. Like he's just stuck, just like pressing X on like the Ask Madden, like just straight up the same play over and over. The 49ers used to do this thing. I don't know if they still do, but there was this thing like where they had like a 360-degree replay, and like the play of the game was like a blocked PAT or something, or it might have been a blocked field goal, and then they just like 360'd on that. But there was nothing from the 49ers side that was exciting about this offense. Like the most exciting play that year might have been a play where Blaine Gabbert like kind of slowed down like he was going to slide and then took off running and went for like a long touchdown against the Bears. Kenny
Pickett.
What I hated about Chip Kelly coaching the Niners, I absolutely despised. They would run the no huddle offense. And if the Raiders are going to do the same thing, good luck, Mike. But they would go no huddle, and literally the defense would be on long drives because the defense, they weren't the same. The defense would be in for a ride. The offense would just like, keep them in the corner. Like if this was a boxing match, and they would be attacking the body, right? And then Chip Kelly's offense would trot out there and go 3 and out in like 30 seconds. And then the defense was right back on the field.
Yeah.
Like, is
not ideal.
I don't think that, I have to imagine Pete Carroll is not going to let Chip Kelly just do no huddle offense, but, and I really haven't followed Chip Kelly since he was on the 49ers, but, that's my experience. And not necessarily that I really despised him, it's just like looking at that era as a whole of like, man, we got rid of Harbaugh for nothing. And it was the low point, in between like 2 really good tenures, of coaches. Like I have my critiques about Kyle Shanahan, but like, he was never a dumpster fire like the previous 2 coaches.
Right.
And funny enough, he is the only coaches out of the 4 that I'm even talking about, with Harbaugh, Tom Sula, Chip Kelly, and and obviously Kyle. He's the only one who hasn't won a championship to any capacity, because Chip Kelly now is a national champion in college as an offensive coordinator. Yeah. But what I kind of think is, all right, you could look at it this way. If Chip Kelly has good talent, he can call, a good offense. I'm just wondering if it's going to be so easy to fill in the talent and have a huge talent disparity like he was able to have at Ohio State, because he was also the coach of UCLA in 2023, the year before, I want to say. And they went 8-5, so they were just kind of mid. Right. So I don't know. I think it's going to be different. And I hope that Pete Carroll just kind of like allows Chip Kelly to do the things that he's good at. And in terms of like, I guess play design, but like I said, I didn't see much of that on the Niners. I didn't see much of that.
Yeah.
But in college, he seems to be more creative. And when he was, with actual talent,
Yeah, I've seen a couple plays linger on Twitter from certain Raider accounts, showing Ohio State plays, and it gets me a little excited, but not anything worth going into right now. I really want to be able to find a way to like really watch Ohio State film to some capacity this offseason, but we'll see. Okay, what I will say, in theory, Chip Kelly made a lot of sense with Kaepernick because you had the pistol offense and Kaepernick's mobility, right? And
Yep.
I think to that point, Chip Kelly was pretty well known for utilizing mobile quarterbacks. And one place that we haven't mentioned because it was so far in the past, but I remember Chip Kelly from his days at Oregon, back when
Yep.
Oregon was a fucking powerhouse.
Marcus Mariota.
And Mariota, yeah, and that, the mobility there, and just probably an hour ago, I was saying, for years now, and at times I've fallen off of it because I felt like, yeah, maybe Jalen Hurts isn't that good, or like isn't like a top 10 quarterback in this league. But I have said many times, like, the quintessential quarterback for me, for the Raiders, is Jalen Hurts. Like, if I could pick the quarterback, and I don't get to pick every perfect, quarterback tool. Like, I don't get to pick Josh Allen's arm, Joe Burrow's accuracy, Patrick Mahomes' ability to take what the defense gives him, and this Lamar Jackson's speed. I don't get to choose all those things, right? If I could just have a couple things into a quarterback, it would be what Jalen Hurts has, with the mixture of mobility, ability to be efficient, and to win games with the talent around him, right? And I think at a time Kaepernick was that guy, right? And he had a better arm. I'm not going to sit here and slander Kaepernick, but things didn't quite work out for him.
He didn't have talent at the end.
He didn't have talent to help him at the end, for sure. I also think his accuracy fell off at the end, and then he also had political things that blew up in his face, and we all know how that went, and that was all interesting, to say the least. So, but well, I guess now would be the time to pull up the tweet that I sent to Silver and Gold. It's from Optimistic Raider, which is the perfect way to put myself right now. Actually, first do the Albert Breer.
Okay, let me pull that up.
Yep. So it'll be, when you go up, it'll be the third one.
Okay.
Before I go into the details, the third, Albert Breer.
Okay. Albert Breer.
The Raiders told candidates during their search they were making a serious commitment with an infusion of cash from the new owners, which we talked about probably multiple episodes ago. That they have 3 new investors, or not investors, but part owners, that bought stakes from Mark Davis. And they are, as Albert Breer says here, infusing their cash into, their serious commitment to win. And here it is. Chip Kelly was lured to Vegas with a deal averaging $6 million per year, per sources. Kelly is now the NFL's highest paid coordinator. Some might say they're overdoing it. Not me, because that money doesn't affect the cap one bit. I could care less what they pay their coaches. In fact, pay them more for all I care. All that matters is what they do after they get paid, right? All that matters is whether or not they win. So if they're going to bring in the best talent possible, if Chip Kelly is the best talent possible, which I think at the time when they hired him, that's probably a fair statement. I'm ecstatic that they're doing this. I'm ecstatic that Mark Davis is selling stakes in the team. He's getting people in the building that can either financially help with hiring coaches that are going to make a difference, or getting guys like Tom Brady in the building to help with developing quarterbacks. I love it, dude. I love it. So, unless you have thoughts on that, we can move on.
I do have thoughts. So, right. I don't have an issue with Mark Davis, paying, making someone the highest paid coordinator, or really overpaying for a guy, because it doesn't affect the cap. It's Mark Davis's money, and obviously the other owners' money. I kind of agree with this comment here. This is at YDKI007 over here. He said, it's a solid hire, but highest paid coordinator money, what has he done, to earn that? even in college, there's some guys I take, to run my offense over him. Example, Lincoln Riley. Feels like an overpay, I guess. It doesn't affect our cap, but I'm not tripping. So I'm not tripping, but damn.
Yeah, I mean, if it fails and within 2 seasons they're firing him, it looks so stupid. But I just think if he's one of the best, okay, for one thing, Lincoln Riley, is he an offensive coordinator or a head coach right now? Because
he's a head coach, I think.
If he's like the head coach of USC, which I could be wrong on that, you're not going to pull that guy to be our offensive coordinator. You're going to pull that guy to be our head coach, So you got to go for an offensive coordinator to become your offensive coordinator from college to the pros. You got to elevate them, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Just point being, I like that. I want to say the deal that Liam Cohen had in place with the Buccaneers to become the highest paid coordinator was $4.5 million per year. So this is a big fucking jump for coordinators. And also, I'll say this is the thing I was going to say. Another aspect to this that makes me very optimistic is that my biggest worry with whoever they hired as offensive coordinator was that if they are successful, they will get poached to become a head coach in this league. Chip Kelly might be one of the few options, if not the option, that if he is successful, teams still might not be interested enough to make him a head coach. Sort of similar. I'm not going to compare him to this guy necessarily because his success, it's highly unlikely that he will be as successful as this coach.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
Steve Spagnuolo?
Yep. Yeah, this dude, I mean, he can get all the, head coaching interviews as he can the past couple of years, but for some reason he's just not going to get hired. Or if he wants, he could just say, you know what, actually, I'm going to pull my name out of the candidacy. I'd rather stay in Kansas City. I'm going to get a, $1 million raise and stay in Kansas City. Why the fuck wouldn't he?
What about Josh McDaniels? I guess you can group him in. I don't think he's ever going to get another head coaching job.
Correct. Yeah, I think if anything, the Patriots hiring him back, I don't know which podcast I was listening, but they were saying that was a sneaky smart move by the Patriots because he's not going to get poached. Nobody's going to want him ever again. So he could be their coordinator for the next 20 years. There's nothing stopping him. So if nobody is interested in Chip Kelly, so long as he doesn't have the consistent number one offense in the league, there's a good shot that no team will take him seriously enough to make him their head coach again. Because he's failed twice.
On the defensive side, I would say that Dennis Allen is probably,
good coordinator. Probably not a head coach again.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Okay.
So if that's true, if that is the case for this, where, again, wishful thinking, Chip Kelly is successful with the Raiders, the hope is that teams don't want him to be their head coach, and we can keep him for years to come. So, All right. But this is a pretty long tweet, but as far as my optimism, reading this tweet falls very much in line with what would make me feel optimistic, which makes sense because this guy's name is literally Optimistic Raider at Planet Raider. So, and again, this is with an optimistic tone, so maybe not all of this is the perfect way to deliver it, but here we go anyways. The Raiders land one of the most elite offensive minds in the game. Chip Kelly at offense coordinator is as good as it gets in the NFL. He is known for his dynamic up-tempo spread offense. You've mentioned up-tempo. Hey, the negative with that, like you said, is if you don't get first downs, your defense is going to get fucked.
Yeah.
Started using multiple tight ends a ton this year at Ohio State. Here are some of the key characteristics that put his offense in the upper echelon in the NFL. If you just scroll down a little bit as I keep going. Number one, no huddle, hurry up tempo. Kelly's offense is designed to keep defenses on their heels by minimizing time between plays. This prevents defenses from substituting and forces them to stay in base formations. That's the positive for sure. I will say one game that really stuck out to me with, no huddle, hurry up tempo was the Eagles Rams game in the divisional round. When the Rams were making their comeback, they went full no huddle, and it was killing the Eagles, absolutely killing them. But they weren't doing that all game. What I would like to see, I don't want to see all day, every day, hurry up tempo. I would like to see it situationally. Utilize it at the right moments. Be efficient with it, but don't do it all the time and fuck your defense over. Like, use it on drives to keep the defense in base formation. And if your offense is humming, good. But once you need to substitute, you know?
Yeah.
But, don't all the time. Like, that's stupid. Okay. 2, zone read running game. The foundation of his run game is the inside and outside zone read, where the quarterback reads a defensive player, usually an edge rusher, to decide whether to hand the ball off or keep it himself. I love that because, like I mentioned, he is somewhat well known for having mobile quarterbacks in his offensive scheme. When I watched his introductory press conference, I liked when he mentioned that. This was another thing I was going to say. Like, looking back on his quarterbacks, you had, of course, Marcus Mariota, and then with Philadelphia, he had Michael Vick at first, and then I think he got injured, and then he had Nick Foles, who was excellent under Chip Kelly, and he ended up getting traded. And then they traded for Sam Bradford, and that's what made them fall off, by the way, was they traded for Bradford, and you have these hopes of like, oh, first overall pick, he could play great. Not so much, right? And then Chip Kelly gets let go. And then he eventually has Kaepernick. And then I don't know who the fuck he had at UCLA, but then he had Will Howard at Ohio State this year, mobile quarterback. Hey, like I keep saying, Jalen Hurts is the quintessential quarterback type for me, for the Raiders. This zone read, RPO passing options is right up my alley. So get me a mobile quarterback that can do this, to an efficient level. We're cooking.
What about Justin Fields?
Dude, yes. So that Justin Fields is a guy that I feel like makes a lot of sense now. Like a week or two ago before this hire, I thought, oh, Russell Wilson for sure. Now I feel like, if anything, it's the other way around, where now I feel like Justin Fields makes the most sense, and you get a rookie in the draft. And if Justin Fields plays good, which he was playing pretty good, like maybe not passing perfectly, but he was doing solid enough to win games for the Steelers early on.
He was like 4 wasn't he?
Yeah, he definitely started off hot, or the Steelers did. But then I think they had like maybe 1 or 2 losses, and then Russ came back healthy, and it was like, yeah, get Russ in there. And it was like, damn, like I thought Fields was doing good, So yeah, Fields makes a lot of sense.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe 4-2. That sounds a little bit more right.
Right. I saw somebody mention like, oh, Marcus Mariota is a name to look out for. Sure, as a backup, I don't want Mariota starting for us next year. That doesn't make any sense. As a veteran, like to help teach an offense, cool. But like, if you are going to theoretically have Aiden O'Connell on the roster, like there's not much room for much else as far as starters go. So Justin Fields is kind of the top guy for me right now, but that could be very fluid the next couple weeks. 3, spread formation concepts. Kelly uses spread formations 3 or 4 wide receiver sets to stretch the field horizontally, opening up running lanes and quick passing opportunities. 4, RPO, like I said. Elements. 5, simple play calls, repetition, execution. Rather than running a huge playbook, Kelly's offense is based on a small number of plays run from multiple formations, emphasizing execution over complexity. That can be a positive and a negative. As far as keeping it efficient, that can be a positive, but becoming predictable could be the negative. So they have to be very smart there. 6, inside running game with athletic linemen. The offensive line plays a crucial role in Kelly's system, often featuring smaller, more athletic linemen who can execute zone blocking schemes effectively. I'm not the who's who on which offensive lineman is better in power or zone. I'd like to think and hope that our offensive line will perfectly work with Chip Kelly, but with my luck, this guy and that guy just won't fit, and now we have to rebuild the offensive line completely. I think Colton Miller and Jackson Powers Johnson are for sure safe. Everybody else we'll see this offseason. We'll see. Number 7, if you could scroll down, please.
Yeah.
Quick passing game. Kelly's passing attack features short, high percentage throws, screens, and quick slants to keep the offense moving. Over time, his offense has evolved, particularly at UCLA, where he has incorporated more traditional pro-style elements and tight end usage while still maintaining his fast-paced identity. Buckle up. We're in for an amazing season. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. What we are really in for is an interesting off season. I'll say that.
I think that you're setting yourself up for a cap cut, huh?
Like on the offensive line or what?
Well, no, just that. You know what you did to me. You know, you're like, Chip Kelly, blah, blah blah blah, and then like you see it, and then like essentially how you flip flopped on Luke Getsy this year. But I'm not predicting that. I mean, here's what I'll say: Chip Kelly is not as bad as Luke Getsy. Like I think it's you're in for a big upgrade, and really not that you could get much worse with how their running game was and how broken the offense was.
My thing right now is like hearing you name off the Niners personnel on offense the year that he was the head coach. Like we're not too far off, but we have Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers. Like that's basically the difference between our offense and the Niners offense at that time. And you guys had a better quarterback in Kaepernick than we have currently. Some Raider fans would actually argue that. Everybody relax. Okay? I love Aiden O'Connell as a backup, but if he gets traded this offseason because he doesn't fit our offense anymore, I'm not mad. We got to do what we got to do. But all these people out here, I've seen people tweeting and shit like, Aiden O'Connell should be the starter. What are we talking about? New quarterback. Guys, get fucking real. Okay? If you want to be serious in the AFC West, we need to find the right quarterback for this offense, and it's not Aiden O'Connell. No offense to the guy. I love him. And I love him for the team. But no. Like, no. Send him to New England. I'm sure Josh McDaniels would love to have him back. Maybe we can get a 5th-round pick for him. I don't know. But, we got to sign a guy like, say, a Justin Fields, or who else came to mind, honestly? This guy wouldn't exactly run RPO, but he's still got the functional mobility, I think, to, like, evade pressure, roll out of the pocket, and throw a lot of passes to Brock Bowers. And he's been reporting for Fox News this week. Or Fox News. Fox Sports. I think Jameis Winston can make a lot of sense.
Yeah. No, I like Jameis Winston. And I've even said in our group chat, like, I feel like if Jameis Winston was the quarterback for the Raiders, and this was before I saw him start a bunch of games, but I just, I said I could see Jameis, if he lands in the right spot, being like the next Geno Smith of like, hey, his career just took a while to take off. But, upon seeing Jameis Winston with the Browns, I mean, dude just throws picks, man. Like
he throws picks.
It's so hard to win, like, all right, I have to say, like, fantasy football wise, I'd be licking my chops, man.
For Brock Bowers. Give me Brock Bowers all day. I don't even think I got to say it, but in Chip Kelly's introductory,
if Jameis went to New York,
with Neighbors,
I think Malik Neighbors would like freaking break NFL records.
Yeah, for sure. I don't even think I said it, but in Chip Kelly's introductory press conference, I think the favorite thing that I heard him say, which this makes sense, and guys should say this, but I hope that they act on it when they say this, and especially in this case with Chip Kelly, but like, you have to build your offense to the strengths of your quarterback. is something that he said. So let's say that we try to get Justin Fields, and in building to the strengths of him would be RPO offense, right? But let's say you can't get him and you quote unquote settle for a Jameis Winston because let's say Sam Darnold outprices us. We can't afford that. We got to re-sign our guys on defense and we want to get DJ Reed or whoever else, right? With Jameis Winston, I feel like in theory, and this is what I was saying this year with Aiden O'Connell, so maybe I'm a dumbass, but I know Jameis Winston has the first overall pick arm. That's why he can have 5,000 yard seasons is because he can throw the fucking rock. He just throws the ball so much that he throws a lot of picks too. So in theory, if you can have a strong run game, which they really need to work on this offseason, and you keep it like that tweet that I was reading says, where you can keep the offensive play calling efficient and like a lot of short yardage and, all these less complex playbook, if you can keep it consistent, Jameis Winston could be a guy that like just game manages games, and I could see it working really well. You just have to be able to scheme guys open at that point, because if you like plays, if you allow plays to not expand, but to go past 2 seconds, he's gonna freak out and throw a pick, right? That's the difference between him and the other 32 better quarterbacks in the league. So, but if you can keep it simple and efficient, I mean, Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers can get open for him, So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, the same thing can be said about Justin Fields. Like, he's not really known for not throwing picks or being accurate. So, regardless, the quarterback pool this year is not the best, which is why I think the big rumor this morning that came out from like Adam Schefter was like, yeah, the Raiders are the team to look out for Sam Darnold. Yeah, I could see it, I guess. Like, he's not a mobile quarterback, but he's more – this year he was more efficient than those other two guys, right? But I think if you're going to go for a quarterback this year and you're also going to draft a guy, why pay the big money for Sam Darnold? Like, I expect him to, receive. I'd rather go for Justin Fields on like a 1 to 2 year prove it deal. Hey, maybe you are the starter. Let's find out. Let's have a battle,
Man, the fall from grace. Sam Darnold after one playoff game, dude.
Well, I still think he's going to get paid because he's the best quarterback available. And it is, if he does hit free agency, there is going to be a bidding war. And do you really think that the Raiders of all teams can sell him the best on like their locker room? Like, I don't think he's going back to the Jets, although they have a completely different staff now. But what would be a team that needs a quarterback right now? Other than us. Titans.
The Giants.
The Giants with Malik Neighbors. They have the offensive-minded head coach in play, but he's honestly on the hot seat, I'd say, this year. That's tough. I don't know. The Raiders need to get a running game, I think, especially with Pete Carroll and like all this talk about like wanting to run the ball. They got to figure out running back too. So I don't know. I think, like you said, right now I lean Justin Fields, dude, but I don't even know if the Steelers will let him go. So we'll see.
Yeah, you won't have Bears fans this year saying that you can't have them. Quit trying to take them.
Yeah. And I do think Justin Fields deserves his fair shot. So I think the Raiders, I guess that's the sell that the Raiders could give to any quarterback that they sign is like, hey, you're going to have your best shot to start here, because we're not in the position to draft a quarterback 6th overall. Anyways.
This is the last tweet that you sent me. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I didn't really. I just sent it just because I saw it at the moment and sent it to the Twitter. But yeah, Greg Olson is coming back as the Raiders quarterback coach. This is like his 3rd stint. I like what Vincent Bonsignor said here. When coaches like Sean McVay, John Gruden, and Pete Carroll hire you multiple times, it's a pretty good sign that you're a good coach. And I feel like Greg Olson did a good job with Derek Carr. Not the best coordinator in the world, but we don't have to worry about that. We just want him and obviously Tom Brady to work with the quarterback and whoever it is, whoever quarterbacks are in the room, develop them, And I like Greg Olson as a Raider fan.
What
The
can't he
other,
do? What can't Greg Olson do? He's all of a sudden he's a tight end, then he's a Fox announcer, now he's a quarterback coach. Obviously,
yeah.
different Greg Olson, but
Oh, right.
oh, and
Right.
he can rap.
Yeah, and he could rap. Yeah, there you go. Great song.
It actually
The
is.
rest, yeah, the rest of the coaching staff, I think maybe next pod we'll go over because I think by then they'll fill out the staff because they just hired Chip Kelly, so I think more of the coaching or the offensive coaching staff will come in this week. I know that I'd say the most interesting hire was Brennan Carroll. Pete Carroll's son is the offensive line coach. He came from, I think, Washington. He's had success in college, but the worry, like to me, the offensive line coach is probably the most important position coach on the team. So getting a guy who hasn't been offensive line coach in the NFL is an interesting choice to me. They hired another guy though that I remember. I was like, "Ooh, that was a good one." But we'll get back to it. I guess we haven't talked about Patrick Graham coming back, but that's my guy. I'm excited about that. I think we'll talk about that more on the next pod though.
Yeah. We're pretty much, just going to finish up this pod. I do see, since we are talking about assistant head coaches, Fonzie says Niners got Gus Bradley, which I haven't talked about, as a defensive assistant. Talk about coaching hires. Yeah. Gus Bradley cost me the fucking fantasy championship this year. Fuck that guy. No.
Well, it's interesting because Robert Saleh, I guess, I don't know if it was his first shot. I think his first shot was like as an equipment manager or something or not equipment manager, but I forget what the term is, but maybe special projects or whatever. But he started off low and kept elevating. Eventually became the linebackers coach, I think, on the Jags for Gus Bradley. So it's funny how now it's kind of reversed where Gus Bradley's the assistant and Saul is the defensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but in terms of Gus Bradley, I know he was the Colts coordinator from 2022 up until this year. Before that, he was the defensive coordinator for the Raiders.
Yeah, I didn't mind him. I like of all the defensive coordinators that we've had, Paul Guenther I think was my least favorite. And before that, we had a bunch of guys that sucked, like Ken Norton Jr. He was not good. I remember. Oh damn, I'm not gonna remember.
Raiders
his name.
made playoffs that year, right? 2021.
Yeah. That was with Gruden, and then obviously Bazakia. Yeah, and Gus Bradley was the defense coordinator. But yeah, I would say behind Patrick Graham, Gus Bradley's been my second favorite defensive coordinator for the Raiders since I've been a fan, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember who Jack Del Rio had as defensive coordinator back in the day. I don't remember. Maybe Jason Tarver. That's a name but I feel like that was Tom Cable's defensive coordinator.
I think it was Tom Cable.
So I'm not sure who we had with Jack Del Rio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we'll see how prominent of a role that that Gus Bradley is really going to have. I'm more so excited about Saleh being back, and if he can obviously work well with Gus Bradley, I'm here for it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But last thing before we get out of here, I do just want to recap because I forgot to share the screen here. Mike and I, for whatever reason, just finished out with the same, correct or the same number of correct picks, for the playoffs.
Nice.
Season's over, man.
Hey, we both got above 500. It's a
Yeah,
win.
we're both above 500, and I don't actually think that it counts it. Hold on. Yeah, no, I think that this just counts on. Okay. Yeah, no, I was gonna see if it also counted our playoff predictions as well, but this is just like our standard, predictions, and then the playoff ones are a little bit separate. So I say we did pretty good. I could have beat you, man. Could have beat you again. That's just the theme this year. And if this is the last episode of our season, it's, I just could have beat you at so many different points. And I can't wait for the time where All right, everyone. This concludes our episode of the Silver and Gold.
What's that, little buddy? Oh, yeah, okay.
Well, just when I have that trophy behind me again next year, oh man, I will be unbearable, Mike. No, I won't. I won't be unbearable. I will be. God, he's just looking at me. He's like, please take me home. I'm scared. I don't want to be with this guy. Yeah.
Saying, talk to the hand.
All right. I'm saying, oh, hold on. There's a little bit of a delay on my mic now. So it's kind of perfect timing.
Indeed.
But I'm saying, please comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. I just want to give a quick thank you to everybody who tuned in and, watched today's episode. I want to thank Fonzie. I want to thank Joel, Frank, Will, Pia, and Emerald Knight Photos, and Lecky, and 49er Media. Oh, and Rudy Olgwin. Yeah. Your guys' support, honestly, it's been great. I've noticed like a lot of I've noticed a lot more people tuning into the channel over the past week, or past couple weeks. So
yeah, I would say to everybody watching, commenting and whatnot.
Hold on 1 second, Mike. I do not hear you because my AirPods died.
Okay.
Maybe if I just plug in the other one.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. My setup's falling apart over here.
All right, you're good. Well, I'll just say to anybody watching this, which I know we're 2 hours and 45 minutes in now, so I won't be shocked if not many people watch this part of the video. But I would say, obviously the regular season's been over, but the season is over. We are moving on to the 2025, I guess, off season. There's still a lot to be talked about between, like I mentioned, filling out the coaching staffs. And then really, I'd say in the next week or two, I'm going to update the current Raiders roster Google Sheets that we have. And then I think pretty soon here, we'll start talking about free agency needs, upcoming free agents, and, free agents out and about in the NFL that we could be looking at for the Raiders, and I'm sure for the Niners too. So, and then after that, in between is the combine, and then just a couple months after free agency, which is at the end of March. So really a month away. A couple, 2 months after that is the draft. So, we're going to have our little breaks, and then it's going to be big moments here and there scattered. And then before we know it, it's going to be training camp again. So,
yeah, I'm hoping that we can live react to the first round of the draft again.
Yeah. What do we have? The 6th pick and the 11th pick for the Niners?
Yeah, 6 and 11.
Nice.
Also, it's throwing me off, dude. Just the fact that the video is
wow,
a couple.
You're super delayed.
I know. It's
wow.
Maybe because I use I use my old phone as a camera, because I use the Epoch Cam app, and maybe my old phone is like, dying a little bit, but
Mm.
yeah, it
I'm
looks
literally
horrible.
talking to the past right now.
Yeah. Yeah, you're living in the past, Mike. That trophy is going to be mine for the future and on.
Yeah, well, it's funny because as far as the past goes, 2023, Josh Knudsen, 2021, 2020, 2018. I mean, 4 championships, that's good, but it's the past.
No, man. I'm the future. Like Will says, I will never be washed. I will never be washed. Fonzie says, good night, guys. Let's all enjoy today's victory. Yeah, well, it's actually technically yesterday's, but yeah, we'll enjoy it and hope everybody has a great rest of the night. That's the episode. And yeah, Mike, I will let you get your last words in, while the camera catches up with me, and I'll just hold a good face for a couple seconds.
Awesome. Yeah, not much else to be said, but I am very excited for free agency. A lot of defensive players that need to get re-signed. And it'll be very interesting to see where Spytech and Pete Carroll and company take this offseason. So,
Yeah, last words. Wrap it up.
Thank you, Eagles. And good night, Kansas City.